host, The Stephen A. Smith Show, starts right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love you every weekend over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I don't sound the same. Matter of fact, I sound pretty crappy right now because my voice has faded from me. Hours of working, traveling, obviously losing my temper, dealing with the New York Knicks and not getting the number one overall pick in the draft. I had a conniption. And as a result, my voice is a bit shot right now. Not shot enough for me not to be over the airwaves, but shot from the standpoint of me not being my regular, energized, passionate, loud self. So nevertheless, you get the normal Stephen A. I'm not going to give you the Barry White Stephen A., the one with the mellow voice. You understand? The one that can sit up there and be a DJ for late night music, you know, the R&B, the slow jams, and all that stuff. I'm not going to give you that voice. Y'all ain't ready for that. But I will tell you that this is how I'm going to be sounding over the next couple of hours. You'll have to deal with it if you so choose. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, the number to call up is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. There's a lot of stuff to get into today, and one of the biggest stories developing and percolating is Zion Williamson, the imminent number one overall pick in next month's NBA draft. Obviously, the New Orleans Pelicans won the number one overall pick, and there is speculation as to whether or not he will or whether or not he even should consider doing what he can to ensure that he's not the number one overall pick of the New Orleans Pelicans, even if it meant going back to school and going back to Duke, because essentially he is eligible. He can return to Duke, number one. Number two, he never hired an agent nor signed a sneaker deal. So because of those two realities, there's no conflict as it pertains to NCAA bylaws, its rules and regulations. And as a result, if he desperately doesn't want to be in New Orleans, then you know what? He's got some options, albeit not really plausible ones in most of our minds. His stepdad spoke on a radio station in Baton Rouge, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. So I can tell you what his stepdad said about all of that, and I'll get back into that in just a second. But the first order of business is what I witnessed right here in Milwaukee, which is where I'm doing the show from on this particular day. I'll be here in Milwaukee today and tomorrow. I was here for last night's game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I'll be here for Friday night's game 2 for the Eastern Conference Finals. And I got to tell you something right now. I know that Toronto had as much as a 13-point lead. I know that Kawhi Leonard dropped 31 and Kyle Lowry dropped 30. I know that Toronto, the number 2 seed in the entire Eastern Conference, is a formidable foe. I'm not questioning any of that. But I got to tell you something. If what I saw last night was any kind of indication whatsoever, I have to be honest with you and tell you I am of the belief that the Milwaukee Bucks have this series in the bag. That it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me to see the Toronto Raptors are winning more than one game this series. I predicted they lose it in 7, a game 7 back in Milwaukee. But I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this ended in 5. You see, what you saw last night, in my opinion, the bad stuff in Milwaukee, you're not going to see for the rest of the series. You saw a team that was clearly rusty, shooting 11 of 44 from three-point range. You saw a team that appeared a bit discombobulated on offense. You saw a team that was rusty. And you saw a team that epitomized all of those things that I just said by shooting 11 of 44 from three-point range. That's 25%. And simply not having it for most of the game offensively. And then the fourth quarter arrived. And what happened? Kyle Lowry was absolutely sensational throughout the game, scored 14 points in the fourth quarter, ended up finishing with 30. But Kawhi Leonard scored 2 points in the fourth quarter on 0 for 3 shooting. The rest of the team collectively, Kyle Lowry hit 5 of his 7 shots in the fourth quarter. The rest of the team took 15 shots and made 0. Not a basket. Now, I don't know about y'all, but your future don't look too damn bright when something like that happens. How many nights I can expect when I saw Kawhi Leonard go into the lane and get a shot blocked by the 7'1" Brook Lopez, I can foresee that. When he ends up turning the ball over because he goes into the land of trees in Milwaukee, the Greek Freak Antetokounmpo, Brook Lopez, the 6'9" Chris Middleton, the 6'10" Nikola Mirotic, rather. I mean, these are trees that exist on Milwaukee's front line. If I can foresee him having those kind of struggles, you know what I can't foresee? I can't foresee the Greek Freak struggling from the field. I can't foresee Milwaukee continuing to miss the open shots that they had opportunities to hit because of the collapsing effort of the Toronto Raptors, all on the Greek Freak. I'm looking at Malcolm Brogdon come off the bench. This brother can shoot and he can play. I'm not underestimating. I'm not sleeping on that by any stretch. I'm thinking about all of these things. I'm monitoring and looking at all of these things. And I'm here to tell you something right now. This is no joke. So I just look at them right now. I look at this team, the Milwaukee Bucks, and I just believe that they're big, they're strong, they shoot perimeter shots, and collectively they absolutely positively defend. And when I look at it from that perspective, I don't know how Toronto can beat them because, you know what, like I was telling my man Max Kellerman, styles make fights. And if you are going up against the Milwaukee Bucks and you're the Toronto Raptors, you don't have the horses. By the way, Nick Nurse, it would help if you didn't put Marc Gasol out on the perimeter against Brook Lopez. That ain't going to work. You need to have somebody more quick of foot, like a Serge Ibaka out there. That ain't going to work. Marc Gasol trying to defend him. That's not going to work. Also, we got to remember the fact, too, that it wasn't just rust. It was also the fact that the Toronto Raptors threw Milwaukee off kilter to some degree, because what they did was they threw a 3-2 zone in Milwaukee's direction. A 3-2 zone. And dared them to be beat from the perimeter. So you can imagine how this must have thrown Milwaukee off. I don't anticipate that happening in game 2. I don't anticipate that happening in one of the games in Toronto. And as a result, I expect the Milwaukee Bucks to win this series relatively easily. I wouldn't be shocked. It can't ever go on 7. That would shock me. 6 wouldn't shock me that much. But I'm going to go with 5. I mean, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it, Toronto. Styles make fights. And that is that. Moving on to tonight's game 2 at the Oracle in Oakland, California, where the Warriors will host the Portland Trailblazers. That's a different scenario. Warriors are playing outstanding defense led by Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. Steph Curry has exploded with his threes. Klay Thompson has helped with his threes. And you certainly, don't get me wrong, their defense is stellar. And that's not to say that Portland doesn't need to have people that steps up. Harkless dropped 17. Rodney Hood dropped 17. They ain't had bad games. Seth Curry had a bad game. Evan Turner didn't score a point in the game. That cannot happen. But I will tell you this. That ain't Portland's major problem. Portland's major problem is that C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard have to take over. The very two dudes that has carried them throughout this year, they got to do it again. Are they going to do it? Hell no. Portland's not winning this series. But can you win a game or two if you do that? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. And it's going to be real interesting to see what they actually do. Because it's going to be a challenge, make no mistake about it. There is no way around it, ladies and gentlemen. Steph Curry is catching fire. Klay Thompson is too. And when they do that, they are the best shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. Period. And I don't think Portland can beat them at all. I will tell you this stuff. All of this noise percolating about Kevin Durant and whether or not he's going to come back, let me state for the record, let me be very, very, very clear. Without Kevin Durant, the Milwaukee Bucks will beat the Golden State Warriors for the World Championship. You need Kevin Durant against these brothers. You need somebody that can look those trees in Milwaukee in the eyes and say, you know what? You can look down on everybody else, but I'm right here on your level and I'm going to bust your butt. Because this is what I bring to the table. There's nothing you can do about it. Everybody's going to be fascinated. The Greek Freak against Kevin Durant. Oh, my God, what a matchup. Yeah, what a matchup. But be very, very clear. The Greek Freak is dominant and as awesome as he is. Offensively, in terms of dissecting one's offensive repertoire, you ain't even in Kevin Durant's league. It ain't even close. You're inside, he's outside. So know that. Know that. Milwaukee and Golden State seem to be on a collision course. And to me, Milwaukee will win the championship unless Kevin Durant comes back. They will win the championship this year unless Kevin Durant comes back. 888-SAY ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Something else I want to get into before I go to the callers. I had heard about this, and then I saw the jump yesterday on ESPN where Brian Windhorst reporting it. Zion Williamson, the projected #1 overall pick in the upcoming NBA draft. His rights belong to the New Orleans Pelicans. I called the league office and checked. Zion Williamson has no certified sports agent. Nor has he signed any sneaker deal where money is being funneled to him. And under those two conditions, he's eligible to return to Duke. Now, let me be very, very clear. Because I saw Jalen on Get Up this morning. I saw other people talking before First Take was to come on. And I'm like this, yo, nobody's saying that Zion Williamson is going back to Duke. Nobody's saying that. Nor are we saying that he should. But let's call it what it is, please. Does Zion Williamson look happy to you when the Pelicans won the #1 overall pick? Didn't look happy to me. Not at all. And since he didn't look happy, my attitude is this. If you're Zion Williamson, what is the matter with you? Saying, quote, I really don't want to be here. I'm not talking publicly. I'm talking whispering in the ear of David Griffin. Whispering in the ear of Alvin Gentry. I don't want to be here. So can we work out some kind of draft day trade or something? I don't want to be here. That's all he has to say. These people that are walking around acting like it's so sacrilegious, you need to be careful. It's not a good look. Because it's not precedent set. Listen, Kiki Vandeweghe did it in 1980. I have the notes right in front of me. Originally drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in 1980 as the 11th overall pick. He refused to show up. His decision lasted about the first month of the season or into the first month of the season. until the Dallas Mavericks decided to trade him to the Denver Nuggets for 2 future first-round picks. Danny Ferry, the former interim GM, for the New Orleans Pelicans. 1989, 9 years later. He spent a year playing in Italy because he didn't want to suit up for the Los Angeles Clippers. He didn't want to play for them. Or the San Diego Clippers, rather. While he was abroad, the Clippers traded his rights to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Ferry came back to the United States after it happened. He was willing to go overseas and play rather than come play for the Dallas Mavericks. Kobe Bryant never had to say anything because Jerry West was doing his bidding. But Kobe Bryant had no intentions of showing up to Charlotte. He didn't want to go there. He wanted to be in LA. And Jerry West was about making that happen. So what I'm trying to say to you is that could easily be Zion Williamson. And I'm not saying to nullify, I'm not disrespecting David Griffin or Coach Alvin Gentry in any way. Alvin Gentry did an outstanding job. He did an outstanding job last season in light of that whole Anthony Davis fiasco. And David Griffin is a quality general manager. And I got news for you on him. David Griffin is going to make the best deal possible. He's smart. But here's what I'm trying to tell all of you. If you're Zion Williamson, what's the matter with you whispering in David Griffin's ear and say, look, I don't want this to be an Anthony Davis situation 3 to 5 years down the road. I'm letting you know right now, I don't want to come to New Orleans. What's the problem? Why is everybody acting like that would be such a crime? Since when? It's not a crime. If that's where he doesn't want to be, that's where he doesn't want to be. Period. Now, that's not what his stepfather is saying, however. His stepdaddy, and we get ready to play for you right now, the stepdaddy went on an ESPN radio station in Baton Rouge and said something totally different than a scuttlebutt we have been hearing about 24 hours. Listen to this.
There's been a lot of national stories about Zion maybe returning to school, doing this or that. How do y'all feel about potentially coming to the Crescent City?
We're excited. We're excited about that. One thing that Zion has always been taught, you accept the things that you can't change, you change the things that you can change, and this is one of the things that he had nothing to do with. It's the process of the NBA, and certainly, we're excited about the Crescent City down there in New Orleans. And you said about returning to Duke, there's been a lot of speculation, but that is nothing that we have even considered.
There you have it. The stepdad, Lee Anderson, Zion Williamson's stepfather, says it hasn't even been considered. So if you are Zion and you don't want to go to New Orleans, that's the worst thing you could have had happen, because that means your stepdaddy spoke out of pocket and he spoke for you, and he had no business doing that. However, if you're willing to accept it, New Orleans is good, because then they can move ahead as scheduled. All I'm saying, and I'm not encouraging one way or the other, if you don't have a certified agent, if you don't have a sneaker deal, if you're not in violation of any NCAA rules or regulations, you're perfectly free to go back to play for Duke. I'm not advertising that, particularly when both R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish have declared for the NBA draft. Those are two of your teammates. They're not going to be there anymore. We get it. I understand it. You're not going back to Duke. And you damn sure ain't thinking about going overseas. But here's what I'm saying. The man hasn't been drafted yet. If you haven't been drafted yet, what is wrong with Zion Williamson simply telling David Griffin and Alvin Gentry, look, fellas, nothing but respect for you, but I don't want to be here. So I'm letting you know right now, look, I got to accept what I got to accept, but you're going to be drafting somebody that doesn't want to play for you. The Pelicans just had to deal with that Anthony Davis fiasco. They'll probably have to be on the phone thereafter. Why? Because, it's one of those situations where They got to get rid of Anthony Davis. His situation is status quo. He ain't thinking about changing his mind. He's not thinking about changing whether or not he wants to be in New Orleans or not. He's convinced he wants out. So if Anthony Davis wants out and you have to deal with what Alvin Gentry had to deal with all of last year and what a headache that was with minutes restrictions and then other nights he wasn't going to play and, you taking him out in the fourth quarter, clearly losing games that you should win. If Anthony Davis was in the lineup, though, the games you would have won. You're going through all of this. And then you're going to revisit it again because your star rookie doesn't want to be there for you? To me, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't make sense. I have no problem. I'm not encouraging Zion Williamson one way or the other to do anything. What I'm saying to you is there is nothing wrong if he whispered in David Griffin's ear and said, I'm not looking to be here. Rather than them having to revisit this 2-3 years down the road again, like they're doing with Anthony Davis now. Just a thought. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Jacob, real quick, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hi, Stephen A. How you doing today?
I'm all right. Go ahead, man.
I just wanted to say, if you were Zion Williamson personally, what would you do? Would you go back to Duke?
Yo, man, do you have a voice problem like me?
Yeah.
You do? Because I was getting ready to ask you, why the hell you sounded so low? Raise your voice so my audience can hear you. Speak up.
What would you do personally if you were Zion Williamson?
What I just said. I would whisper in David Griffin's ear and say, I don't want to be here. And I just want to let you know, I'm not going to make a public spectacle of it. I'm not going to say these things publicly, but privately, I'm telling you, I would prefer not to be here. That's what I would do. And then let the chips fall where they may. Thank you so much for the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Michael Collins, golf reporter on golf at ESPN, covering Tiger Woods, PGA Championships. He'll be on with us in just a few minutes. Plus, I'll get back to your phone calls in a minute. So stick around. Don't touch that dial. It's Stephen A. Smith right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less, only at Walmart. By the way, people, I'm here to tell you about Zelle, a quick and easy way to send and receive money right from your banking app. Not sure what to get someone for their birthday, graduation, or housewarming? Send them money with Zelle, a truly one-size-fits-all present, so they can buy whatever they want. The money goes directly into their bank account, typically within minutes if they're already enrolled with Zelle, so they don't have to wait long to spend it on the perfect gift for themselves. Look for Zelle in your banking app or get more info at ZellePay.com. That's ZellePay, ZELLE Pay.com. Terms and conditions apply.